Hello, Bears fans. If you've learned anything about me over my 6 years drafting for Chicago, it's that I need help, especially with my first-round picks. There was Kevin White and Leonard Floyd. And then my biggest investment, Mitch Trubisky. And I know you won't let me forget about Adam Shaheen in round 2. But those mistakes are a thing of the past because now I watch Draft on Tap.
Good choice, Ryan. Draft on Tap features Danny Shimon and Neil Stopchinski, two outstanding draft prospect evaluators. This season, they are totally focused on the Chicago Bears' needs and prospects that fit their team. Additionally, their guest list will include some of the most prominent names in scouting. So Ryan, bro, thanks for doing what thousands of others are going to start doing. Watching Draft on Tap with Danny Shimon and Neil Stopchinski, only on the Barroom Network. We could all use a little bit of help, right, Ryan?
You're listening to the Barroom Network. The following program is intended for all audiences. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Goon Podcast with your hosts, Joe Mandel, the Goon, and John Santucci, the Tooch. We're bringing you the fantasy football knowledge that you need every single week.
Derrick Henry still going. Stays in bounds. He might go 99 yards for the touchdown. Unbelievable.
Flushed out again all the way back. Turning the corner. Fires downfield. Caught. Touchdown. Only Mahomes turns what might have been a 15-yard sack into a 27-yard touchdown.
Saquon Barkley across midfield, down the sideline, stayed in bounds, and Barkley takes it all the way. 68 yards for his first NFL touchdown. McCaffrey right up the middle, and he is gone for the touchdown. 58 yards. Pass is to Thomas. He's gone. Touchdown Saints.
Okay, it's time for the easiest part of any coach's job, the cut. Now, while I wasn't able to cut everyone I wanted to, I have cut a lot of you. Steven, I like your hustle. That's why it was so hard to cut you. Congratulations, the rest of you made the team. Except you and you.
God bless fantasy football. There are many things a man can do with his time. And this, better than those things.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Fantasy Football Podcast. I am your host, Joe Mandel, the Goon, and joining me, as always, is my co-host and good buddy, John Santucci, the Tooch. Tooch, what's going on, buddy?
Oh, ready to talk fantasy football. Week 4, week 3 is in the books, Joe. It's injury, it's coronavirus week, it's everything. We got to get into it.
It is, and there's a lot of bad news coming through the league, Tooch. But before we get to the bad news, what do you say we cover some good news, right? There was some good news coming out of the league,
start with
right?
The good news. Yeah. Congratulations are in order, Joe.
I would say so. Congratulations are in order. Look at that. Patrick Mahomes is going to be a dad. So congratulations to Patrick Mahomes and his fiancee, Brittany Matthews. Looks like they're going to be parents, and that's pretty exciting, too. Just nice to see a little good news before we dive into the bad.
It's exciting. She must have told him before that 5-touchdown game because he was pretty fired up, in that last game against the Ravens. 4 touchdowns through the air, 1 touchdown on the ground.
Yeah, he was pretty fired up, Tooch, and
yeah.
I'd say he had a pretty damn good performance. But let's get to the bad news, Tooch.
Yeah.
COVID has arrived in the NFL in full force, Tooch. News breaking this morning that the Tennessee Titans had a mini outbreak in their own locker room. 5 staff and 3 players have been confirmed positives. So now they're doing contact tracing for their entire team. Then, of course, looking at the team that they played. Tooch, and I'm drawing a blank. Who did they play again on Sunday?
They played the Vikings, so maybe
that's right. The Vikings
have 0. I believe the Vikings have 0 positive tests. So it's a complicated situation right now because the Titans, like you said, are locked out of their facility and can't practice. So they're playing the Steelers. The Titans and Steelers are both 3-0. Is it fair, Joe, for the Titans to play the Steelers this week? I mean,
it's tough, Tooch. So as you were showing me earlier, the NFL really wants to try to play this game. They're currently scheduled to play on Sunday. The league has a worst case scenario of possibly playing the game on Monday. But like you said, Tooch, the Titans facility is closed until Saturday.
Yeah.
The team cannot practice. You can't get a game plan together. How can this be remotely fair or plausible? I just don't see it.
Well, obviously the scheduling is complicated because
absolutely,
if the Titans are forced to, not play, there's probably 3. I mean, they're not going to make the Titans forfeit. I take it, right? So I
doubt it.
The Titans play the Steelers with no practice, which kind of isn't fair. So, or the Titans and Vikings, I guess, would be given a bye.
Right.
Rescheduling these games. I mean, the Vikings are scheduled to play at the Texans. So now who the Texans going to play? So
it gets really tricky really fast, Tooch.
Right.
And that's why
the Steelers and Texans have already played, so they can't play each other again, right?
Yeah, this is obviously why they want to get this game in. It's going to raise a lot of questions for the rest of the season and what could happen with COVID, specifically with performances by not just players, but organizations as a whole, because you're moving teams around, you're changing their buys up.
Yeah,
I mean, this could get really, really sloppy for the NFL. It's not like Major League Baseball where you can go find an off day.
I think with the Vikings not having any positive tests, I think the Vikings and Texans game should go forward. But the Titans and Steelers game, that might end up, they might end up having to play take their bye week 4, and then move the scheduling back a little bit.
It gets really tricky, Tooch, because COVID can stay in your body for a while without being detected, all that jazz. And,
right.
Who's to say like they're going to have to test these? Obviously, they're already doing testing a lot, but, what's to say what's going to stop the Vikings from like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days from now? They get all these positives now, and then it starts to get out of hand because then they play another game, and it's just, it's the merry-go-round. It goes round and round. Where it stops, nobody knows.
It's a developing story. We'll have to, folks, fantasy players will have to monitor the whole situation throughout the week because, managers, 100% roster. Derrick Henry is 100% rostered, Joe.
Oh, yeah, he's a first-round draft pick, absolutely.
Jonnu Smith is the number 2 overall fantasy tight end right now. So you've got
high in my rank. He's high in my rankings, Tooch.
So, 2 fantasy players would be out. And then if the Steelers are forced to go out too, you got James Conner and Juju Smith-Schuster. Players like Big Ben and Eric Ebron are on the rise. It's something fantasy players will have to monitor, but commissioners also have a job to do with this, Joe.
There is, and I'm imploring you, I'm going to look you all right in the eye, and I'm going to tell you right now, talk to your commissioner. You have to have a conversation as a league for the fairness and ease of the entire league, and I'm a commissioner of a lot of leagues, and Tooch can vouch for me here, you have to have at least 2 IR spots that you can put players with COVID on. I don't think there's any way around it, especially with it starting the way it is. As I mentioned, there's 3 positive players on the Titans right now. We don't know who they are. Right. Who's to say it's not Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill, and Corey Davis or something along those lines? Maybe Jonnu Smith. What do you do? I mean, you got to put these guys – you got to have an IR spot because you cannot drop guys like that. It's just not fair for the league as a whole if you do not have an IR spot for COVID players. It's just plain and simple. You have to have that dialogue as a league, and it's as a commissioner, you have to step up and put your big boy pants on. I'm in a couple leagues where the commissioner won't put an IR spot, and I hate it. I think it's not fair, and I think it's something you need to do, to make things more competitive in your league, because otherwise it's just like dead weight. You're carrying these dead players. Like I have Christian McCaffrey in one of those leagues too, and I can't put him on the IR.
That's ridiculous. I mean, that's with
literally why it exists.
Yep. Yeah, you have to talk to your commissioner. They have to be able to add some IR spots. I think we talked about this before the fantasy season started about how important it was to have an extra IR spot or 2 this season, just because of this very fact of the coronavirus, wiping out a game or wiping out a team in this case. So, I mean, we talked about this before the season. What if one team, what happens? Do they forfeit? Unfortunately, the NFL has a competition committee that looks into the situations like this, and that's why they're looking into whether or not it's fair that the Titans play the Steelers without being allowed to practice. That would be pretty tough. Yeah.
It's rough. It makes things very complicated for this league, Tooch, and especially for fantasy players. So I implore you all, make sure you're watching Twitter, watching the official NFL, watch the Titans Twitter account. Make sure you watch guys like Adam Schefter and all of the NFL insiders. These are guys you want to get the knowledge from. I mean, that's where I saw this first this morning from Adam Schefter. I think he broke it around, Tom Pelissero, maybe. One of those 2 guys, they broke it around 9:30 this morning, and it just kind of erupted after that. So,
I wonder how, I mean, because if you read an ESPN story on it today, you found out that the epidemic started with the Titans linebackers coach Shane Bowen, who did not make the trip to Minneapolis. So somebody had to know, the day that they traveled to, probably would have been Saturday, because I believe it said in the article that they stayed overnight at the JW and outside of the Mall of America. So,
wow.
So they were up there on Saturday, and the linebackers coach didn't go because he had tested positive. So somebody knew something before last week's Titans-Vikings game.
And that brings all these protocols. It brings all these protocols to the front. Could there be fines for the Vikings for the way they handled it? Who knows how these are all – I'm not the Vikings. I'm sorry, the Titans. These are all things we got to be concerned about, and it could be very relevant, but definitely watch what happens in the next couple of days. We should know by tomorrow, I would imagine.
I found out from that story, Joe, it's very interesting that players wear a proximity meter or monitor, proximity monitor.
It's pretty cool.
It keeps them 6 feet apart. It goes off when they violate the 6 foot within 6 foot proximity. So that's one of the protocols that the NFL has installed to combat coronavirus during this NFL season.
Yeah, and it helps with contact tracing, which is pretty amazing. So definitely keep an eye on it, guys. COVID is in the NFL. It's gonna be a wild week, folks. So keep your eye on everything. Make sure you watch our Twitter account at FFBGoon. You can hit me at Joe Mandel, and you can hit John at Santucci_John. We'll keep you guys in the know on what's going on with this Tooch. But on top of the COVID, Tooch, there's always something. There's more injuries.
Yeah. Every week, Joe, there's new injuries. A lot of it. I don't remember there being this many injuries to fantasy studs, last season. This season seems to be a lot more, with maybe possibly because of the no training camp and no
there's no training camp.
No preseason or short training camp.
Yeah, and lack of hitting. I mean, that's
Yeah.
going to do it every single year. So, yeah, definitely something that's, eating these guys up, Tooch. And outside of
Coronavirus!
there's actually injuries on top of coronavirus, Tooch.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
leading things off is the big man in Seattle. This is a pain. This is a pain for that team, losing Chris Carson with what's being described to as a knee sprain, which is vague as usual. But they're saying he's going to be out 1 to 2 weeks. Chris Carson owners, you got to go out and grab Carlos Hyde.
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk about Chris Carson being out 2 weeks, so I guess Carlos Hyde would be a good. I mean, if you've lost, Saquon Barkley or Christian McCaffrey, and you didn't get, Mike Davis or Jeff Wilson, I guess would be another name, or someone who could fill in and actually generate some quick fantasy points, then Carlos Hyde would be, a good pickup.
Yeah, and we'll dab a little bit more into the waiver wire after the injury section, but just something to touch on, and Tooch, and tight ends now hitting the board of injuries. Tooch, your guy Dallas Goedert.
Yep, ankle injury. He's to the short IR. Zach Ertz, stock up. So get Zach Ertz in there. He's going to be targeted heavily, especially since, they're banged up at wide receiver. Deshaun Jackson's got a hamstring. Alshon Jeffrey's still out. Their number one wide receiver is a guy named Greg Ward, Joe, who'd be a good pickup. I see Gonzo's in the chat room. He lost Carson and Godwin. That was good segue right there. Is Chris Godwin, another hamstring injury for Godwin. I believe that's what held him up a little bit last year too.
Yep, it's always the hamstring with the wide receivers, Tooch. It's like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have a case of the hamstring-itis.
Yep.
But that's rough. Obviously, that's a big name. That's a second round draft pick, probably a second round draft pick for you.
That's right.
Deshaun Jackson, dealing with another guy with a hamstring injury.
Yeah.
Not that the Eagles are any good, but you still got to worry about losing D-Jax.
Yeah, and Greg Ward had a big game. Is another name to look out for. He was heavily targeted, scored double-digit fantasy points. Let's see, against the Bengals, he was targeted 11 times. Joe finished with 20.6 fantasy points, eight receptions, 72 yards, and a touchdown. So Greg Ward is a guy who's out there. I think
not
the
too
Eagles,
shabby,
right? The Eagles are playing at the 49ers, I think, which is, that's some room. That's a Sunday night game. That's some room for Ward to go against those, 49ers banged up on defense. So, of course, the Eagles offensive line really struggling with injuries as well, Joe.
Horrible. And another guy that we talked about last week for always being injured is injured, of course. Jordan Reed, Old Man River, dealing with a knee and ankle injury, Tooch, and we don't know how long he's going to be out, but he's hurt. And when you have Jordan Reed and hurt in the same sentence, you don't want to be anywhere near him.
Right. And hopefully the 49ers get George Kittle back, and fantasy managers, haven't really been able to play George Kittle. They played him first week of the season. He didn't do much, and then he was gone. So injured in that first game. So there's a chance Kittle could come back. Also on the 49ers, they're having troubles with the running backs, with Raheem Mostert out. Tevin Coleman went to short IR, I think. And now Jerick McKinnon suffered an injury. So Jeff Wilson.
Everybody's banged up.
Yeah, everybody's banged up. Although you got Jeff Wilson and possibly
Tevin Coleman
coming back. Tevin Coleman is out. Jeff Wilson took the reins last week and did really well. Jerick McKinnon also scored too, but McKinnon isn't one of those guys who can be an every down running back. He's more of a pass catching running back, third down running back. Just hasn't been able to stay healthy. That's what a bell cow back needs to do, is be on the field. Jeff Wilson, really, that was a great pickup. If you picked up Jeff Wilson, you were ballsy enough to insert him into your lineup last week.
Paid off.
Really paid off. Mostert, I think we should see Mostert, if not this week, then next week. I think he's due to come back pretty soon.
I agree. I have a feeling he'll be back. I'd like him to be back this week, but I think he'll be back next week.
I think so. I think that's probably more along the lines of, you never know. We'll find out. He's probably, like, you're going to hear news on Friday for whether or not Mostert practice on Friday would be a good indication of whether he's playing Saturday. But a couple concussions after that. Deontay Johnson on the Steelers, who cost me my week. Went out in the first quarter. Didn't return. And Russell Gage against the Bears, Joe.
I like Russell. I love Russell Gage this week if he gets going, but pay attention to that concussion protocol.
Yep.
The league is very serious about it, as they should be. So definitely something to watch for both Deontay Johnson and Russell Gage.
Mm-hmm. That same game, Tariq Cohen was lost for the season with a torn ACL in the Bears-Falcons game.
Yeah, that sucks. I mean, and a great comeback story in that game, but sad to lose the recently extended Tariq Cohen.
Yeah. David Montgomery stock up there.
Montgomery stock is up, and you would imagine Ryan Nall.
Yeah,
maybe
they signed practice squad player Artavis Pierce, rookie, to the active roster today. So maybe someone to keep an eye on. I would imagine Ryan Nall is the one who's going to come in and spell David Montgomery. But I imagine Montgomery will probably stay on in third downs. You might see Ryan Nall take a few third downs, as well as he's a pretty good receiver out of the backfield as well. So look for Montgomery to have an increased workload.
And Montgomery's still a little banged up as well, so keep an eye on that. You could tell he's, at least for me, when I watch Montgomery play right now, he's not looking like someone who's fully 100%.
Right.
So I think give him a couple more weeks and he'll even more erupt with more carries. But you're going to see a lot. You're going to see a lot of Ryan Nall against the Colts, I think. But anyway, moving on through the injuries, John Brown, Tooch, dealing with an ankle injury.
Yeah, that's going to put the stock up for Stephon Diggs and Cole Beasley. Beasley had a big game too. Diggs and Beasley both had a big game. Another guy that they have as their fourth wide receiver is going to step in is a guy named Gabriel Davis. Could be a player to watch out for.
Yeah, absolutely. And real quick, Ron Ruppnow in the chat wants to know if there's any updates on Devontae Adams. They held him out of this game on Sunday night, and they got lucky to be able to get a win. And I think giving him that extra week to get healthy is going to be huge. I'm expecting him to play this week.
I am too. But I heard he could have played last week. They held him out just to be safe. So I think he'll be playing this week.
And if he doesn't play this week, then he'll definitely play the week after. But I like Devontae Adams to play this week. And then we got a question here before we keep going through the injuries, Tooch. Live HD wants to know, start Denver defense or the Bills defense? I mean, they're both great plays. They've been very, very good. The Bills didn't look so hot last week. So I would go with the hot hand here, Tooch. Maybe I'm in the minority here, but I really like Denver, but they're playing the Jets. So I think you got to go with Denver against the Jets because the Jets are horrendous.
Of those two, I would take the Broncos. Yeah. At the Jets. I mean, you could also say, how about taking the Jets? I mean, the Broncos are starting a rookie quarterback, Brett Rippon, Mark Rippon's nephew. So they'll that's a good chance for the Jets defense to disrupt. I don't see that game being very high scoring.
It's garbage. It's a garbage game.
Sam Darnold struggling. The Jets are like the Eagles at wide receiver. So I would probably go with Broncos of those two, although I don't think either matchup is terrible. I mean,
he's going to be seeing a lot of ghosts again, Tooch.
How about the defense in last night's game, Joe? Wow.
Oh, wow. Great. Unbelievable.
I mean, both teams were really fired up on defense in the first half until the Chiefs broke it open. But Chiefs really underrated defense team, and they really get after the quarterback and play.
But
Tyrann Mathieu is everywhere.
The Ravens had a terrible game plan. They just didn't have it going.
Yeah. Are you worried about Lamar Jackson, Joe?
I'm worried about Lamar Jackson. Especially if you use the first or second round pick on him. I'm worried because he's not rushing like he was, and they're not throwing. They can't get it going. Mark Andrews looked horrible yesterday, dropping balls. I know it's partially because he didn't really have anything going on from Lamar, but that team needs to get things going. And the main problem for them, Tooch, I know I'm going on a rant, but their main problem is they're not running the ball as much. They did not have enough carries yesterday. I know they fell down early, but you can't fall down early and then just consistently throw. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, they couldn't get the running game going. And I mean, Lamar Jackson had a couple runs where I thought, well, he looks like he could have broken it, a couple times.
Yeah.
But like we said before the season, teams had a year to study Lamar Jackson.
Yep.
And, they figured out ways to game plan against Lamar Jackson. Although next week seems like a get-right game for Lamar. They're at the Washington football team, close to home.
But they're sneaky good.
Washington's got a good defense. They'll be without Chase Young, who had a groin injury, so that weakens them a little bit. But I imagine that the Ravens will be looking back at their performance against the Chiefs and saying, let's get things going here. I don't know. Yeah. The Redskins don't generate a lot of points on offense, though. They play good defense.
Right.
It's the quarterback play, on Washington. Now you wonder how long it's going to be before you see Alex Smith. I think that would be a move that probably, helps the Washington football team generate some more points on offense.
Tooch, I'm going to be honest with you. I think it's Kyle Allen. I don't think it's Alex Smith.
Okay. I mean,
the depth chart currently has Smith as 3, but it could be if they want to go with the veteran, then they start. Obviously, they go with Smith, but
if they're smart, they go with Alex Smith because the guy's a winner. He's a smart quarterback. There's nothing he hasn't seen. He's good at reading the defense, and he's a good quarterback. With the amount of experience he has, I think it might be a good spark for the Washington football team. But
hopefully, if Alex Smith sees the field, he's not seeing any ghosts because he's had a hard time. Sorry, I had to do that. I've had that queued up for 3 minutes, and I was just ready to throw it in there.
Right.
But before we move on, guys, we have a couple more injuries to talk about, and Lisa in the chat room says hi. So,
hi, Lisa.
Hi, Lisa. Thanks for tuning in. So, a couple more injuries. Michael Pittman got Tooch, a guy we were talking about last week.
Yeah.
We were high on. Yeah, he's out with an ankle injury. Ankles are a problem in this league right now.
Yep, ankles and knee injuries seem to be a big problem this year. Hamstring as well. But I mean, the Colts offense at the quarterback position hasn't been, I'm sure, what they expected it would be when they signed Phillip Rivers. I don't know, Joe. Phillip Rivers has got some work to do, I think.
Well, and then Frank, I was listening on Sirius XM today when I was driving to NFL radio, and they were interviewing Frank Reich, and they're talking about Phillip Rivers' play, and he's like, "Oh, I'm very happy with how Phillip's been playing," and I'm like, "What are you watching that I'm not?"
Yeah, he has to say that, but yeah, I just don't see the same quarterback we saw in years past. The last year kind of the arrow started trending downward for Phillip, and they've got injuries at the wide receiver position with Paris Campbell, and now Michael Pittman Jr., T.Y. Hilton, and Phillip Rivers haven't clicked. But one guy that has clicked is Mo Alley Cox, Joe. Your pick last week for deep sleeper.
Yeah, I'll gloat about him a little bit later, but that one hit last week. I like him.
Yeah,
another
ran
touchdown.
Seven routes only. Had 3 for 3 on a targets and a
that's not bad.
Yeah.
And Tooch, we got one more injury before we move on. Then we got a question from Lisa we'll get to in a second.
All right.
But Mike Williams also banged up, Tooch, with a hamstring. He's not going to play this week, and hamstring injuries are tricky, man. So keep an eye on Mike Williams.
So that rounds out the injuries, guys. Before we get to
I don't
the
know who Mike Williams' backup is.
we'll find out. I got to look at that depth chart.
We'll have to effort that. Yeah. What's Lisa's question, Joe?
So, should I start Jefferson or should I trade for a better wide receiver?
Is she talking Justin Jefferson or Van Jefferson?
You probably, Lisa, can you tell us in the chat, are you talking about Justin? I would imagine you're talking about Justin.
I imagine she's talking about Justin Jefferson.
She has Juju as wide receiver 1. Yeah, and what do you have to trade? So give us a little bit more. Is this a PPR league? Do you get a point for every single catch? Obviously, you got Juju as your 1. What do you have at 2 and 3? Let us know in the chat. We'll get back to you once we get a little bit more. Oh, Justin. Okay. She's talking about Justin.
Justin Jefferson's my number 1 waiver wire pickup. I think it's, you're starting him almost every week, from here out because, he's either a number 1 or a number 2 starting wide receiver. You could say Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson a 1A and 1B. Now, after that breakout performance, just a matter of time before Justin Jefferson got comfortable in that Vikings offense. But we all saw the talent of this player at LSU. So I would hang on to Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, I like Jefferson too. So I'd say you're gonna start him for sure. I mean,
right,
especially with good matchups. So
the Vikings are at the Texans, man. So
it doesn't get much better than that.
Great matchup for the Vikings against the Texans secondary. I mean, the Texans are near the bottom.
Yeah, and then Tooch, before we get to Chris, Lisa did a follow-up. She's got Edelman at 2 and Robbie Anderson at flex. She has Kamara and Aaron Jones. Wow, that's a great combo, Lisa. That's a good job. Good draft in there.
The top 2 running backs in fantasy right now, Kamara and Jones.
Yeah, so this week I like Jefferson over Robbie this week.
Yeah, so do I.
But still great job. That's a great team. And before we move on to the waivers and who to pick up, Tooch, Chris Gonzalez, do I drop the Chargers defense for the Bears even with the matchups? My answer is no. The Chargers defense, in my opinion, has been better to start the year than the Bears. The Bears are going to have that's so tough, man. I don't think you can make that move just yet.
I would play the Bears. I'd rather play the Bears defense in this one.
Right. No, I would too, but I'm not dropping the Chargers for them.
Right.
Would you?
Well, it's a tough call. I mean, I dropped the Chargers for the Rams I would drop the Chargers for the Rams or Bears this week. That would be a good pick. I love the Rams at home against the Giants this week, but like I said,
you got to look at the Rams.
Yeah, I mean the Bears shut down opposing wide receivers, of the opposite teams. They're number 1 in the Bears cornerbacks are number 1 in the NFL versus wide receiver. So the Colts will have to run the ball. They just have to gear up against the run and shut down Phillip Rivers. They'll be able to get pressure on Phillip Rivers.
Yeah,
I think with Hicks and Quinn and Mack and Roy Robertson Harris, those 4 guys will apply plenty of pressure.
See, we're on opposite ends. I like the Chargers better this week. I think, I don't dislike the Bears.
No, I think with Godwin out, you're probably, it's a tough call, Joe.
So it's rough. I mean, something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I like the Bears at home, I guess. I think the Chargers are on the road at the Buccaneers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can drop somebody else, maybe you got someone on your roster, Chris, that you can drop instead of the defense. I would if you have those 2 defenses, I think they're both worth rostering, and then you can play by matchups week by week. So, So something to keep an eye on. But let's move into waiver wire, Tooch, and guys that the folks out there want to pick up. So let's move into the waiver wire.
All right.
That's right, Tooch. And let's lead off with quarterbacks. I don't know if there's a bigger name out there right now than Nick Foles, who exploded into the second half with the Bears against the Falcons and made a lot of those throws look easy, Tooch. Nick Foles available in a lot of leagues, unless you're in a really deep league. But all my other leagues, Nick Foles is available, Tooch. And I think personally, he's one of the top quarterbacks you can get right now.
Well, he wouldn't be my number one. I mean, the Colts are pretty good defense. In fact, they're number one versus the quarterback. They allow the fewest points.
Yeah. So not for this week. I don't love him for this week, but
right. Last week would have been. I mean, I like Jimmy Graham last week. I think I mentioned him last week because Falcons were worst against the tight end. He had a big game with two touchdowns, and Nick Foles was threw one of those touchdown passes, and he has a better grasp of the offense. But my starts would be, or my streaming quarterbacks, my top two would either be Ryan Fitzpatrick this week, who is at home against the Seahawks, who are worst in the NFL against the quarterback and against the wide receivers. I mean, it's not even close. The Seahawks are giving up, the most. There's nobody near them how much points they're giving up to quarterbacks and wide receivers. And then they lose Jamal Adams possibly for this week. And then after that, I like Jared Goff, who's home against the Giants. I mean, you got to love Jared Goff starting to heat up a little bit here. He's he was able to hit both Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. Multiple times. Woods scored on the ground, but Cooper Kupp found the end zone too. So I mean, that's going to be a good matchup for Goff. And then Fitzpatrick, man, you got to. This is a week where you start Ryan Fitzpatrick because him and Russell Wilson are going to be having a real air war. We need the siren, Joe.
That's right, and the Fitz magic, Tooch, it's flying. It's back again. I mean, you might as well call him Harry Potter because he's casting spells all over the place.
All right, they can't run again. The Seahawks are the best against the run right now, so possibly because everyone throws on them. So the run defense is a lot better, but the Dolphins really don't have a great running game anyway. So
no, I mean, but Myles Gaskin is a guy that clearly has that backfield under control. So that's a guy that is involved in the passing game. I still like him this week. At this point, I think Matt Breida is a complete drop. He's been horrible to start the year. I have him in a couple leagues. I'm dropping Matt Breida if I have him.
Yeah, and Jordan Howard, he's good
a goal line back.
One goal line touchdown a week. If you need, 6-7 points, you're on a bye week. Jordan Howard's got a good chance to score. They're not going to give the ball much more than on the goal line, but if he gets 2 goal line carries and 2 touchdowns, you might have a good fill in there, Joe.
Yeah, no doubt.
Another good player. Oh, sorry, Joe. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You go.
Another good quarterback I was going to mention is Nick Mullins, who might be a better quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo, Joe.
It's very possible that they beat him up last week.
Right. The 49ers have a pretty good matchup this week. They're at home against the Eagles. So the Eagles haven't been generating a lot of offense. So Nick Mullins might be a sneaky start. That's Sunday night.
It's prime time. I mean, he's a good daily fantasy pickup as well. So I love Mullins for that. And Tooch, let's go to running backs on waivers. It's an interesting week. As the aforementioned 49ers, Jeff Wilson came in and he lit things up. This is a guy that he's lightning in a bottle. Could be one of those guys that could really, really help you in your middle stretch of your season. And then we talked about Chris Carson going down. Sorry, Gonzo. I know you're very happy about that. So obviously you get Carlos Hyde. Don't love him, but if you need somebody the next week or two, he's there. And then Rex Burkhead exploding for New England out of nowhere. Obviously James White.
He had
James White out
moves and everything, Joe. Receiving, running. Rex Burkhead's like, why isn't this guy on the field more? It's
the problem with Bill Belichick backfields too, which is always a different guy that blows up. Now, I think Burkhead is worth owning and rostering. You could start him in a flex role. But I don't have a lot of confidence in how that backfield is going to pan out, especially once James White comes back. And I believe he's been ruled out again this week, but
Okay.
I got to double check that, but I know for sure he was out this week. Something to monitor. I'm not going crazy with my free agent bucks on Rex Burkhead, but he's definitely somebody that could help you out.
Deeper leagues, I think it's a must-own.
He's a must-own in deep leagues. And there's a lot of big names on this wide receiver list, Tooch.
Yeah.
I know you talked about Justin Jefferson's the guy you need to add.
Yeah.
He's, 1B in Minnesota, but my must-add guy this week, Tooch, is Brandon Ayuk. We keep talking about 49ers. This is a kid that's looking sharp, fresh, and healthy. I mean, he had a great game on Sunday. He's highly targeted. This is a kid that you got to have on your roster.
Yeah, and the only thing that why I have Justin Jefferson a little bit higher is because I think Jefferson's like a true starter. Deebo Samuel, I think, is back this week. So he and Brandon Ayuk, the stuff that they had Brandon Ayuk doing, like the run, the end around for a touchdown. Deebo Samuel does a lot of that stuff. So, Brandon Ayuk's still a guy you could own. I think we should probably add Greg Ward to this list. I forgot to add him, Joe, on the Eagles, who
I like Greg
9
Ward.
targets and a touchdown, 9 targets. And Hunter Renfrow, who also had 9 targets and a touchdown. Then, of course, Cole Beasley. With John Brown out, he becomes an important receiver for Josh Allen, who's red hot.
Josh Allen is a top 3 fantasy quarterback.
That's amazing.
He will probably finish the season as number 1.
I was not high on him before the season, Joe. I ended up drafting him just because he was the hot when one of my picks came up. I don't know, maybe the 8th round or 9th round. He was just the top player on the board. I'd already drafted Drew Brees.
Right.
So I took Josh Allen, and then Josh Allen blew up in week 1. Drew Brees fizzled. The next week, Drew Brees was no longer on my team. So I was like,
Brees has been horrible. Brees' arm strength is not there.
Of playing, just insert. Josh Allen was playing every week until his bye, So resist my temptation.
You can't bench the kid right now. He's just red hot. So love what he's doing.
Yep.
And then, of course, Tooch, tight ends.
Yep.
My guy, I've been talking about Mo Alley Cox.
Yep.
Phillip Rivers, when he throws to him, he makes a catch, and Rivers loves his tight end that actually comes up big for him.
Yeah.
So he's available in a ton of leagues. Same thing with Logan Thomas, who is also heavily targeted. He's a big part of that offense down there. And then the Bears red zone target machine, Jimmy Graham.
He was a top 20 tight end last year, and this year, he looks faster. He looks big. I never realized how tall Jimmy Graham was.
He was a basketball player first.
He's a big target, and he's a crafty veteran. He runs good routes, and with Nick Foles in at quarterback, you got to like Jimmy Graham. I think Jimmy Graham's probably your number 1 tight end pickup. Mo Alley Cox, I know they have him in there blocking a lot more. Like I said, he only ran 7 routes last week, had 3 targets, caught 3 passes for 50-something yards and a touchdown. But, Mo Alley Cox Phillip Rivers loves throwing to the tight end. So, and then, of course, Logan Thomas you have on the list too. Heavily targeted as well. Had amazing athletic catch last game. I don't know if you saw him lay out.
Oh, yeah. That was a great catch.
So the only thing is that Logan Thomas is held back by the poor quarterback play of Dwayne Haskins. And that's why I said, I think fantasy players want to see, another quarterback in there, whether it's Alex Smith or Kyle Allen. I just think, I think some of those players like Terry McLaurin and Antonio Gibson and Logan Thomas, I forget the other guy's name, Steven Sims. They're just being held back by the quarterback play a lot like what's happening in Chicago, where the quarterback Trubisky was not finding the open guys, just not understanding the defense, which a guy like Nick Foles is just better at pre-snap reads, just better at reading the defense, taking what the defense gives you, finding the open man.
Yeah.
Playing smarter with the football. And I think that's going to help the Bears with that defense. They have someone who's not going to turn the ball over as much. Granted, Nick Foles isn't going to give you rushing power of Trubisky. But for this year, a 3-0 team, they'll take that trade-off. It's better to play with.
Yeah,
it's better to play with the crafty veteran who's going to manage the game with a good defense like Chicago's.
And somehow they're 3-0, Tooch, and now they made the switch. And I think it's going to be good for them. So we talked about Foles being an ad, and we're talking about defenses for waivers, Tooch.
Yeah, streaming. If you're streaming defenses, Joe's going to give you 3 of them right now.
The Rams, killer matchup against the New York Giants.
At home against the Giants cross country, Joe.
And the Giants look absolutely horrendous. Aaron Donald might have 7 sacks in this game.
I love it.
I watch he actually does, and I'll play this back and laugh a lot. The Packers too, Tooch. They're going against a team that can't hold the lead.
Right. Yep. The Falcons can put up some points, but I mean now that's this has got to be a team or morale starting to drop. So rumors of the entire coach are looking for a different head coach. Quinn could be fired. If they go 0-4, Dan Quinn could be gone. You're looking at maybe Dirk Cotter coming in as interim coach.
There's been a lot of talk too, Tooch. I was listening to NFL radio about them potentially trading Matt Ryan because pull the plug on the experiment and kind of get some talent back. I don't know how true that is, but Charlie Weiss was talking about it on NFL radio this morning with Brady Quinn.
What would be a good landing spot for Matt Ryan? Never really thought about it until just now. Man, think about it.
Well, I tell you what.
I'm sure the Colts would rather have Matt Ryan than Phil Rivers, but teams like the Jets and Broncos, man, I imagine the Broncos with Matt Ryan.
The Broncos would probably want him, and I would be shocked if the Bears wouldn't show any interest in Matt Ryan too.
That doesn't seem like a Bears move, but
it doesn't. But I mean, you figure you throw in Trubisky and
maybe after the season, if Foles opts out and they don't re-sign Trubisky, Matt Ryan could be a target that Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace would be interested in.
Definitely a possibility. I don't really. I could see him also. Maybe even Carolina. I know they just paid Bridgewater, but
I don't see him trading within the division. But you never know. I mean, teams like maybe let's see,
Minnesota.
Yeah, I know that the Kirk Cousins and Mike Zimmer not getting along. There's that.
Maybe, Kirk Cousins is horrible.
Yeah. Maybe the 49ers and Matt Ryan would look good at the 49ers,
Yeah, Jimmy G, Swaparino, who knows?
Kyle Shanahan have Matt Ryan when he was down in Atlanta?
He sure did. Tooch.
Yeah. There you go. That would be a good move for the 49ers to make another.
You heard it.
You heard it here first?
You heard it here first. That's right,
Breaking
Tooch.
news. That would be good, yeah.
And we're running super long, but let's go.
Before we move on, I know you were talking Falcons. I want to talk about Packers have pretty good run defense. Todd Gurley is one of my sits, but the backup on the Atlanta Falcons is a guy you might think about stashing, and that's Brian Hill. You saw that he's got a lot of speed, very athletic. Made a nice touchdown run against the Bears last week where he broke out and outran the defense, the end zone. So Brian Hill, Todd Gurley's got the bulky knees. Brian Hill might be a sneaky stash, if it gets toward the end of the season. Maybe they trade Todd Gurley, then you've got a starting running back on the Falcons. That's not the best, but
Gurley's been horrible.
Yeah. So he looked a lot better this week against the Bears. The Bears have a tougher defense, but Bears were getting gashed on the ground in that game last week. So, Todd Gurley, I was one of my sits last week, ended up finding the end zone in this one. But
I tell you what you do with Gurley. You hold on to him until he has a huge game, and then you trade him.
I like that Brian Hill stash, though. I think that kid.
I like that too, man. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
And we're just going to list the fantasy gold games.
Oh, yes.
We're not going to break them down. Then we'll get into our starts and sits. But fantasy gold to Seahawks at Dolphins, point explosion.
Yep.
Falcons at Packers, another fantasy gold mine.
Yep.
Jaguars at Bengals. I love that because there's not going to be much defense.
Right.
Cardinals at Panthers. We got our guy let us down, Kyler Murray, last week, but I expect him to bounce back against that Panthers defense.
Yep.
Bills at Raiders, Josh Allen versus Derek Carr. Lots of offense in that one. Browns at Cowboys. The Browns looking much better than I expected, Tooch. So, I think that might be a fun game to watch.
Yeah.
Cowboys defense, not good. So I like both offenses in that game. And then Patriots at Chiefs, Tooch. That should be a fun one. I actually got a little sound clip here from Patrick Mahomes. He's very excited for the game.
Hi, ho, Kermit the Frog here. I always wanted to do that.
Kermit's so excited to play against the Patriots. That's going to be a great game, man.
Yeah, those are some good fantasy games. A lot more than last week's, where it was just players that you kind of never heard of that exploded that you wouldn't think. Guys like Rex Burkhead and Jeff Wilson and Cole Beasley and Hunter Renfrow and Justin Jefferson. These are guys that all, Jimmy Graham, guys that a lot of people probably weren't starting. So
yeah, the people that won lots of money in DraftKings last week, Tooch, they're people that did not spend a lot in the salary cap.
Yeah, there are people who like, hey, James White's out. Rex Burkhead is cheap. Let's just put him in there. Maybe he does some James White things. And man, I can't imagine him being played much. But Jeff Wilson would have been a great pick.
Yeah.
You knew he was starting. You knew last year he had a 4-touchdown game. It's just common sense. Get him in. I think if he's still on your waiver wire, you got to put in a claim for Jeff Wilson. And even if Raheem Mostert comes back, you're probably going to get to play a little bit. If Raheem Mostert gets injured again, you've got a starter on a team that likes to run the ball.
No doubt about it, Tooch. And let's get into our starts of the we'll go starts at quarterback.
Yeah.
Before we get to our starts of the week, some great.
These are Goon and Tooch recommendations, right?
That's right. These are our recommendations for our starts. Tooch, Aaron Rodgers, Falcons. Yeah. Need I say more?
I love this matchup. I think 3 touchdowns passes minimum in this one, especially with the Falcons. Cornerback Darqueze Dennard going out. He was excellent against the Bears. He left the game with injury, probably won't play. That's money in the bank for Rodgers. You tell Aaron Rodgers, hey, some of the starting cornerbacks are out on the other team. What's he going to do, Joe? He's going to find an open man and go nuts. Yep.
He'll go nuts, Tooch. And what about our next guy on this list? It's the guy you love.
I love the streaming quarterback this week, Ryan Fitzpatrick versus the Seahawks. The Seahawks are traveling across country. They likely are without Jamal Adams, so fire up Mike Gesicki as well. Preston Williams woke up, found the end zone last week. He's a good sleeper pick. You got Devontae Adams, you got Myles Gaskin. All of these players making plays through the air. Even Jakeem Grant and Isaiah Ford are getting in on the game for the Dolphins. So I like Fitzpatrick, to throw up 300 yards and 2-3 touchdowns minimum. So I like that matchup.
I like Fitzmagic, and I'm gonna go with Matthew Stafford as well, getting a great matchup against the Saints, who have not looked very good. And Kenny Galladay is back, Tooch, and that makes a big difference for Stafford. I like him to have a big day against the Saints. I'm looking for him to go over 300 yards with roughly 3 passing touchdowns and maybe a quarterback sneak rushing touchdown as well.
I do too. They were able to put up points in Arizona against the Cardinals. That was a surprising win. I don't know what happened to the Cardinals.
I know what happened. Kyler Murray threw 3 interceptions.
Yeah, it was just complete meltdown. They didn't run the ball against one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. Kyler Murray, they had a good game plan against Murray. So hopefully Murray owners get a bounce back this week.
I hope so. I sure hope so, Tooch. And who you're recommending to start a guy that we just bagged on before, but it's a good team to bounce back.
Yeah. It's a good team. I don't know the status of Michael Thomas. I don't think he's back this week, Joe. Do you know?
They didn't put him on IR, Tooch. So
okay, so it's possible he could return.
It is possible he can return because he's been out 2 weeks. And if he doesn't come back, then it's kind of stupid because why wouldn't you put him on IR? But
Right.
I'm assuming he'll be back this week. But if he doesn't, then the Saints just look really stupid.
And Jared Cook,
knee injury. I don't know the severity of it.
Okay, and then Drew Brees able to get the ball to Alvin Kamara, who exploded.
A lot.
Alvin Kamara vaulted to the top of fantasy running backs. As far
Emmanuel Sanders finally getting a touchdown too, Tooch.
Yep. So Drew Brees still able to generate offense without guys like Michael Thomas and Jared Cook. So Lions not one of the worst teams against the pass, against the quarterback. So it's still a good matchup. I mean, if you're streaming quarterbacks, you could do a lot worse.
Absolutely, brother.
Yeah.
And to close things out, here's one of my big picks for this week. I think this guy goes nuts. Joe Burrow versus the Jaguars. This kid likes to throw. He throws a lot.
Yeah.
And Tyler Boyd has been a monster. I think Joe Mixon finally comes back to life this week too. I love Joe Burrow this week against the Jags.
I do too, man. If he's putting it up 50, 60 times a game, you gotta love it. The Bengals and Jaguars, this could become an air war. I think
easily could.
Minshew and Burrow, that would be a good duel. So
it'll be a great duel, and going switching gears to running back starts, Tooch.
Yeah.
We already talked about Jeff Wilson a lot, but we love him against the Lions.
Yeah.
And Tooch, your guy James Robinson.
Yep.
Guy you've been talking about for weeks.
Yeah, exactly. About weeks. I said, watch out this kid. Watch out for this kid. There's a guy I liked coming out of Illinois State. Baralissimo and I talked about him. We just liked his game. He's not super fast. He's got some moves. He's elusive. He's got some power, and he understands the game and what it takes in both the run game and the passing game. And you could see he's been solid. He's a top 5 fantasy running back. He's number 5 overall in scoring. So if you picked him up, you listened to the show and you picked him up, man, you got yourself one of the rare commodities, which is a starting 3-down running back in fantasy.
James Robinson is a league winner. This is a guy that if you have him now, he could help you win a league. I honestly believe that if he stays healthy. So hang on to James Robinson. He's becoming must start every week.
Yep.
This is a guy that wasn't even drafted in most leagues. I have him as my number 7 ranked running back for this week.
Yeah.
You got to start the guy.
It's a great matchup. Bengals are terrible against the run. So yeah, it's a great matchup for Robinson, and he's a must start every week.
And then of course Devin Singletary going against the Raiders, the talented young running back.
Looked great last week.
He did. He looked great. That team looks great. I love him. Dalvin Cook also exploded last week against a good run defense in Tennessee.
Yeah. Yep.
I expect him to destroy the Texans this week too.
Absolutely. And Devin Singletary, the Raiders have passed the Panthers as the worst run defense in the NFL. So just a note. That's why I love Devin Singletary this week.
Use him in daily fantasy and regular fantasy. And then, of course, Todd Gurley going against the Packers.
Yeah,
this is the week Gurley finally gets it going. I love him this week, Tooch.
Packers not that good against the run, better against the pass. If this is the week where you have a decent matchup versus the Packers. Of course, the Falcons like to throw the ball a lot too, so just that's that caveat there. But and then again, we talked about Brian Hill, Joe. This could be a game where Gurley, isn't the stud. It's Brian Hill. I don't know. It could be a passing of the torch coming soon. And
it's definitely something to watch, and definitely I'm agreeing with you, dude. I think that's somebody you gotta pop on your bench. I like the risk for the reward, dude. And moving into wide receivers
for matchup. Yeah,
we love
who's got the good matchups, Joe.
That would be all of the Dolphins wide receivers, too.
I love it. Yep, versus the Seahawks. Yeah, the Dolphins wide receivers this week fire up Devontae Parker. I think you could start Preston Williams. Like I said, if Adams is out, you're going to get Mike Gesicki in there. He's like a wide receiver, really. He's more.
You're gonna start Parker, Tooch, but he does not look 100%. He looks banged up. You can tell his hamstring still bothering him.
Yeah.
So that's why you're not seeing him targeted in the red zone right now.
Yep.
Keep it with a grain of salt. Obviously, you're not going to bench him, but he's not fully 100% yet.
Right.
And the Browns wide receivers, Tooch, great matchup against the Cowboys, who can't seem to stop anybody.
Right.
Does Odell finally erupt for a big game?
I think this is the week. I mean, the Cowboys near the bottom. They're 31st against the wide receiver. So, of course, the game against the Seahawks, with Metcalf and Tyler Lockett going off, and then Russell Wilson throwing for 5 touchdown passes. That didn't help their ranking. But, I love the Browns wide receivers this week. So it'll be good week. If you're going to start them, this is the week.
And then to quick rattle through the rest of the wide receiver matchups, too. You got Packers wide receivers against the Falcons. Yeah. Falcons are horrendous. Same thing with the Texans wide receivers going against the Vikings. That Vikings defense nowhere near as good as it was years ago.
They are hurting on defense too, Joe.
They sure are. And then the opposite end of the Browns against Cowboys, you want to go the Cowboys against the Browns.
Yep.
All their wide receivers.
26th in the NFL against the actually 27th against the wide receiver.
I love CeeDee Lamb this week. I think he's a killer start. We'll get to that in our starts of the week coming up soon. But, Tooch, let's round things out with the tight ends. Why don't you walk us through our starts?
Well, the Saints are the worst team in the NFL versus the tight end. So giving up 17 fantasy points per game to the tight end. So this is the week. If you got T.J. Hawkinson, this is the week to start him.
The Hawkmeister, got to rock with him.
Robert Tonyan of the Packers scored a touchdown against the Saints. If Tonyan
sure did,
Hawkinson can do it. So
I agree, and Hawkinson's more athletic, that's for sure.
Right.
And we didn't get much of a sample size from Drew Sample last week, Tooch, but he also has a great matchup against the Jags.
Yep. Jaguars 30th in the NFL against the tight end. So it's a good matchup for Sample. And if Joe Burrow's going to throw the ball a lot, there's nothing like having a big target, big tight end in the middle of the field to throw to. I like this matchup for Drew Sample.
And the Cowboys, they lost our guy Blake Jarwin to injury, but now you got Dalton Schultz. He's been heavily targeted, and he gets to go against the Browns too, who are not good against the tight end.
Nope.
I love Dalton this week.
Yeah, the Browns giving up a touchdown a game to the tight end. They're 25th in the NFL against the tight end, 11 fantasy points per game. It's a good week for Dalton Schultz, especially because we like this, game for Dak Prescott to put up some yardage against the Browns. And I think the wide receivers and Dalton Schultz should both benefit from this matchup.
No doubt, Tooch. And Eric Ebron, maybe we finally start mentioning his name. Yep. Good matchup against the Titans.
Yep, Titans near the bottom. They're 27th against the tight end. So you saw Eric Ebron come alive. I think he had 7 targets, 5 catches, 50-something yards, and a touchdown. With Roethlisberger, of course, Deontay Johnson was out. That helped, Eric Ebron soak up some targets. So, but he's got a good matchup if they play the game, right?
We'll find out. We'll find out soon.
Yeah, if they play the game, I like Eric Ebron, and this is your streaming tight ends. You could do a lot worse, Then of course we got Mike Gesicki, who we just talked about, versus the Seahawks. That should be an air war. Seahawks and Dolphins. A lot of throwing in this game. Gesicki looks really good this season, Joe.
He does, and he's the safety blanket, and he's a big guy. Finally, the year he turns it on.
Yeah.
And Tooch, before we get to our starts of the week, Let's go with the Goon and Tooch super sleeper start of the week.
Right. Yes.
Why don't you lead things off here?
I'm going with Preston Williams, who found the end zone last week. Preston Williams versus the Seahawks in that big scoring fest. And with Devontae Parker a little hurt, I think Preston Williams becomes the number one target for Ryan Fitzpatrick. Gesicki and Williams would probably be the 1 and 1A.
I like that. I like that a lot. And Tooch, I'm going to go with my super sleeper start of the week. And I'm going with none other than Brandon Ayuk. I love his matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles. I know Debo's supposed to be coming back, but I still think Ayuk's going to be heavily involved. And I think the value you're going to get out of him this week, I think, is killer. So I love Brandon Ayuk as a really, really sneaky play this week.
I do too. The Eagles near the middle of the pack. They're 19th in the NFL versus the wide receiver. It's a good matchup, allowing 24 points a game to wide receivers. So, it's a good matchup. I think the teams that are giving up the most, long plays, 20-plus yards are the Seahawks, the Falcons, Cowboys, and Vikings. So that's something to think of when you're putting your lineups together. So Brandon Ayuk, a deep threat. Eagles also giving up 2 long 20-plus receiving passes per game. So I think Ayuk's a good matchup.
He is, and I'm excited about him. But Tooch, before we get going, we're going to the starts of the week from the Goon and Tooch. And, in here we're going to talk a little bit about some of our picks from last week that hit. And, we'll kind of show you how we're helping people out. So let's go to our starts of the week, Tooch, at quarterback. And I'm going to go with my guy, Joe Burrow. I love him this week against the Jags. I expect big things. Look for Burrow to just go nuts, especially in daily fantasy and deeper leagues.
Love it.
I think Burrow's a crazy good start. For my fantasy football Goon rankings, I believe he falls just outside my top 10 this week, but I still love the kid this week.
Yeah, if you're streaming quarterbacks, like I said, both our picks are going to be great picks. And I'm thinking about picking up Jared Goff just for this week and streaming him. He's got a phenomenal matchup against the Giants. So that's my quarterback pick start of the week for quarterback. So
I love that. And, for me at running back, and just for a disclaimer, for those of you who are new to the show, we're going to talk about names that not everybody's got at the top of their list, names that, that they're not the easy starts. And for me at running back this week, I like Darrell Henderson against the Giants. This kid has been lights out since getting in, and I don't think he's given that job back. I said it last week on the show, Tooch, and I'll say it again. Darrell Henderson looks like the real deal, and he's got a great matchup this week.
Right. Giants near the bottom, 24th against the running back, giving up 23 fantasy points per game. It's a good call. Mine is Kenyon Drake versus the Panthers, who give up 31 fantasy points per game on average to the running back. Hopefully the Cardinals coaching staff realizes they want to run the ball against the Panthers, Joe.
They should.
Yeah. It's just it's a no-brainer in this one. Run the ball against the Panthers.
No doubt about it. You're going to run the ball against the Panthers. That's what you have to do to win.
Yeah.
And Tooch, wide receivers start of the week from me is a guy that you talked about last week. Or I'm sorry. I'm losing it here. My last week's picks from the Goon and Tooch.
Okay, yeah.
Last week I picked Tyler Boyd against the Eagles. And boy, oh boy, that one hit, didn't it, Tooch?
That was a hit, 13 targets, like 10 catches, over 100 yards receiving. Big day for Tyler Boyd. And I didn't take your advice, Joe, and he was on my bench. So it cost me a victory.
I'm glad you didn't, because I beat you.
I know. I should have taken your advice. But all right, mine was Allen Robinson versus the Falcons, who should have had 3 touchdowns in that game, I think. He had 1 touchdown called back, Joe. That was a big hit for Robinson. So Robinson with a big hit. Big game for the Bears' number 1 wideout.
Yeah, I mean, A-Rob, and now he's got Nick Foles at the helm, so that guy's going to get even more dangerous,
Yeah, yep.
I think. But this week, Tooch, our starts for wide receiver, I'm going to go with CD Lamb against the Browns. This is a guy that I think's going to tear it up the rest of the year.
Yeah.
To me, he's overtaking Michael Gallup as the number 2 behind Amari Cooper. I mean, both guys are great, but I love CD Lamb the rest of the way.
I think he's a must start the rest of the way. I mean, they throw the ball so much, and CD Lamb operates so much out of the slot as well. He's getting deep. So, I mean, a CD Lamb, I think you have to start him every week.
I'm with you. You got to start CD Lamb. He's so good. Who's your starting wide receiver this week, Tooch?
Well, I'm going to go with MVS on the Packers, Marcus Valdes-Scantling versus the Falcons. I think you're going to see some of that deep speed. Last week it was Alan Lazard. They game planned the Saints took away Valdes-Scantling for the Packers, and Alan Lazard came up big. So Devontae Adams is back. They may key on Adams. I don't think they'll be able to stop any of them, really. But if Adams isn't back, I like Valdes-Scantling versus the Falcons.
I like that. Regardless, I like that because the Falcons are just not good at their secondary's bad. So I like that pick. And Tooch, tight ends. Last week, we both made pretty good picks. Last week, my start of the week pick at tight end was Mo Alley Cox with the Jets. As we mentioned earlier in the show, 3 catches for 50 yards and a touchdown. Only 7 routes ran or something like that. So
only ran 7 routes. Yeah, that's production.
That's production right there. And Tooch, you picked Jonnu Smith.
The game, they got to get Alley Cox into the game more.
Absolutely. And who's your pick, Tooch, last week?
Last week was Jonnu Smith, which was kind of a hit. He had a decent game. I think he's had 11 fantasy points. So I guess it's a kind of hit. Or hit with the small H.
There was a lot of turnovers in that game, so you can't really blame it on Jonnu. So, but this week, Tooch, at tight end, who are you starting?
I'm going with T.J. Hawkinson against the Saints, the worst team against the tight end. So if this game's going to be a shootout like Hawkinson to find the end zone in this one versus the Saints, big target down there for Matt Stafford. And I think he'll be able to find the end zone in that one.
I would agree with you, bud. I would agree with you 100%. I like TJ, but a guy I like even better this week, Tooch, Tyler Higbee. Great matchup against the Giants, heavily targeted for the Rams. And this guy just does it over and over again. And I just think he's going to have a big day at the office.
Well, I hope so. I've got him on. I've got some shares of Tyler Higbee, so I'm hoping he does something this week. Giants pretty good against the tight end. They're allowing 4 fantasy points per game versus the tight end. So they're in the top 5 of teams against the tight end. But man, I hope Higbee, they get some because I'll be starting him in our guillotine league, Joe. Which I was afraid I was going to get chopped.
Hey, you made it. We all made it. Got some bids processing tomorrow, so
yeah,
that'll be fun. Yeah, I made a lot of bids. I was originally not going to, and then I changed my mind.
I was wondering about, okay. First of all, the guy who got chopped had Christian McCaffrey on his bench. So do you go big on Christian McCaffrey to wait till he gets chopped again? I don't know.
It's tricky because do you want to spend all your money on somebody who's not playing?
Right. Do you want to spend your money on a guy who's not going to be available for 2, 3, 4 more weeks, maybe, So are people going to not spend on him? I don't know. This is like a first-time thing. This is our first time playing in a guillotine league. Another question is, do you save your money towards the end, because, as you get down towards the end, maybe you're able to outbid somebody for someone like Russell Wilson or, Alvin Kamara or Aaron Jones.
It's a double-edged sword, Tooch, because if you don't have the players to survive, then you're going to get cut.
It really is. I mean, I got to recommend to every fantasy player trying a guillotine league. I just because it's a lot different strategy, as Joe's talking about here. Do you spend your money now? Do you save your money? If you don't spend your money now, you run the risk of getting chopped. So there's a lot of strategy, a lot of luck. I mean, next year, I think maybe with our Patreon, we'll have a goon, another goon guillotine league where Bears Barroom listeners, Barflies, and
I like that.
fantasy football goon fans and followers can pay a little extra donation to the Patreon to keep us going and get into our guillotine league where you got a chance to play with some Barroom personalities and
some good prizes and
good prizes.
And for those of you listening who are like, what the heck is a guillotine league? This is it. There's a draft. You have a draft with 17 people.
Right.
And then every single week, the lowest scoring team is eliminated and all their players go to waivers. Yep. And you have a thousand. Yeah, you bid. You have 1,000 fake dollars to use throughout the course of the year.
Yep.
And it gets wild.
It does, man. I mean, we've seen guys. You saw Saquon Barkley come up, and then he got injured. So someone spent half their fab to get Saquon Barkley, and then he was gone that week. So,
and then you have a guy like me who last week, Tooch, I got DeAndre Hopkins for like $402.
Yep, that's been paying dividends, and that's kind of that's a good play because you don't hear about DeAndre Hopkins been relatively healthy throughout his career,
Yeah,
and he's definitely getting the targets and the volume. So yeah, I think it was a good buy. I mean, it's keeping you afloat, until you can get down to the last few teams, But I'm curious to see, like, when it gets down to 7, 6, 5 teams left, and how much money people have and the players that are out there. That's where it's going to get really interesting.
It's going to get tricky, and then you got to make the tough decisions between really good and really good players, and the winner is going to be interesting. So that's what a guillotine league is, guys.
Yeah. Now look at the schedule and see the matchups for those last few weeks.
And real quick, guys, we do have our sits of the week.
Oh, yes.
And last week, Tooch and I both hit on our sits. I told you guys last week to sit Robbie Anderson against the Chargers, and he sure didn't do too much, Tooch.
That's right. 5 catches, 50 yards. And David Johnson didn't get much going versus the Steelers. So both of us had pretty good hits. I mean, it's hard to sit David Johnson because there aren't a lot of starting running backs, but I'm sure some people hit him. You got maybe, 10 points, I think, out of him?
Yeah. So. Yep, and then do you have your sit of the week, Tooch, or I can go first? Whatever. I'll go first with my sit of the week. I was talking highly at tight end about Logan Thomas, but this week he is my sit of the week, Tooch. Tough matchup against Baltimore this week, so I think you got to sit Logan Thomas heading into this week.
All right. I forgot to put my sit of the week in there, Joe. I hadn't put one in there, but oh gosh, let's see. So the who are the Cardinals playing again, Joe? They're playing.
They're playing Carolina. At Carolina.
And the 49ers have the Eagles. So the Bengals have gosh, I don't know, man. I thought I was under the impression I had put one out there, Joe. I didn't get on there. So I'm gonna say I thought I was under the impression I already put this on there, Joe, when I was filling this out earlier, and I missed it.
It's okay, Tooch. I mean, I know when we talk.
I'm going to sit Leonard Fournette this week against the Chargers.
Ooh, interesting.
So
I like it, Tooch. It's very bold.
I think the Buccaneers, Bruce Arians, another guy that hates fantasy football, Joe. You saw like Leonard go off. He benched Ronald Jones. And then Leonard Fournette goes off. Then the next week you saw Ronald Jones. You hardly saw Leonard Fournette. It's
very true.
Bruce Arians and Bill Belichick. Bruce Arians joined the Bill Belichick club of hating fantasy football, Joe.
He does. But I like Fournette this week. I don't think you. I'm not sitting him in my leagues, but I can see why you're saying that. You never know what's going to happen there. And Tooch, we had a question from Lisa earlier that I missed.
Oh, okay.
She goes, should I try to trade Lamar and start Cam? I said yes. And then she followed up with, who should I trade him for? Well, it depends on the trade market right now because Lamar, his stock is way down after this last game. I would suggest waiting until after this week until his stock goes back up.
Depends on what you need. I mean, do you need wide receivers? Do you need running backs? I mean, there's some buy low guys right now. I mean, obviously, it would have been good to trade him for Austin Eckler a few weeks back. Now Eckler's climbing.
Eckler's climbing. He's doing great. I mean, I think I'm with you. You're looking at an Eckler. You're looking at a Clyde Edwards-Helaire like value, maybe a Josh Jacobs, a Miles Sanders.
Yeah.
Maybe you package them with somebody like a lower like wide receiver 2. So maybe you try to get like, I don't know, Tyler Boyd or throw in, a buy low candidate right now is T.Y. Hilton. I think T.Y. is going to bounce back. I don't know if it's this week. I don't think it's this week against the Bears, but I like T.Y. to bounce back in the next couple weeks. So those are just a couple of the guys I would look at packaging, like a wide receiver and a running back for Lamar.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who she could get maybe for Lamar. That would be you might be able to trade him for a guy like Kenyon Drake.
Kenyon Drake's a good name right now, who's also kind of a buy low.
He's a buy low right now that might, still have some juice in him, for the rest of the season. Could be a see if you can get James Robinson. I don't know. Owners are going to
James Robinson.
But,
it could be tight. It could be tough to get him right now with his value, but I personally say you wait another week with Lamar just to get his value back up.
You got both Lamar and Cam. I think you're looking good. You're going to try and deal one of those pieces.
Absolutely, especially with.
I think at this point I'd rather have Cam Newton since he's doing a lot of that goal line rushing. It seems to be finding the open receivers and throwing the ball a little better than Lamar.
I'm with you 100%, Tooch. I agree. So, yeah, definitely try to make a move. I would agree with that. And then Mike Iverson commented, I'm picking up Mooney and Miller now. Foles is starting 5 TDs and 6 possessions. Very true. That offense will finally open up for those speedsters on the Bears.
Yep.
Mooney and Miller available in a lot of leagues. Mooney available in a lot more leagues. I think he's in probably closer to 98% of leagues. Miller owned a lot, but I do like the stocks for both those guys.
I do too. I mean, while I love the talent of Mooney, and I think eventually he's going to be a way better receiver than Anthony Miller. Anthony Miller's been in the system longer, so and plus he's getting more snaps than Mooney. So I think Miller is the guy you want to go after right now and start.
Absolutely. And Chase Brooks is in the chat room too. He just traded T.Y. Hilton for Jarvis and Keelan Cole.
I like that trade.
I like it. I mean, Keelan Cole didn't quite perform the way we thought last week, but then again, the Jaguars came out really flat. So
yeah, it was a Thursday night game, But Keelan Cole, I really like. With DJ Chark, we don't know if he's going for more tests on that chest injury. Plus, he's got a back injury. So Chark might be a guy that if you find you can't use this season, he might end up out for the season. I don't know. We'll see.
Chark is banged up.
Yeah, and if Chark goes out, Keelan Cole's going to be big this year. Now, yeah, like Chase Brooks 34 said in the chat room, T.Y. Hilton is a ticking time bomb. He's, as a Colt fans, he'll go down with an injury is what he mean, right? Yeah,
he's saying he's a Colts fan. He knows inevitably T.Y. will go down.
And, that's weird because, so while I like T.Y. Hilton is obviously at this point in the Colts, he's the best wide receiver on that team.
Mm-hmm.
He's still good. His age is showing a little bit, but he's got the experience. And then, Paris Campbell was about to break out. He got injured. Michael Pittman Jr. is a big target.
He got injured.
He got injured too. You're left with Zach Pascal. You might see Zach Pascal come in like he did last game, throw up a couple, games where, 5 catches, 105 yards and a touchdown and give you 20 points, but
yeah, Ty and Rivers need to get on the same page. I don't know what they got to do, but Ty's had some bad drops and Rivers hasn't looked good. So the fact that they're playing as good as they are is because of the defense, which is elite. I'm 100% convinced that Colts defense is elite.
Very good defense.
And if Rivers starts to turn it on, they could be really dangerous. It's the start of the season. I wouldn't give up on them just yet, but I like Ty to bounce back, but I'm worried just like Chase Brooks is. Ty always finds a way to get hurt.
I don't like Ty this week against the Bears cornerbacks, but
and I'm going to use this section real quick to shout out my White Sox who beat the Oakland Athletics in the first playoff game in 12 years today. Swanky32 in the chat says, "Go White Sox, Joe," and I agree. Dallas Keuchel on the hill tomorrow to send the Oakland A's packing. Let's go White Sox, baby.
Oh yeah, I love my White Sox too, Joe.
Thank you, Swanky, for tuning in, man. He's a loyal listener / watcher and a diehard White Sox fan just like me. I don't always wear baseball apparel during the fantasy football show, but I figured today might be a good exception.
I love Swanky, Joe.
I love Swanky too, and Swanky loves Dallas Keuchel tomorrow. So I would agree 100%.
All right, any more questions in the chat room?
Chase Brooks, what do you mean by with his team cheating? Oh, okay. He's talking about Dallas Keuchel having postseason experience with his team cheating, but regardless of the fact, Dallas Keuchel having in a normal season, he would have won the Cy Young this year if it wasn't for Shane Bieber. So we're getting a little bit of baseball talk, but sports in general, gotta love it. Go White Sox, and the Cubs won today too.
That's the bar room, so it's all about the sports.
Before we close things out, guys, anyone in the chat room have any more fantasy questions before we get out of here? Even if you got some comments about baseball, feel free to get them out there. As we wait for more questions, I'm going to thank everyone that was in the chat tonight. A huge thank you to Alberto Arroyo, who was there, Christopher Gonzalez, Ron Ruppnow, the loyal Ron Ruppnow and Chris Gonzalez, Live HD, Lisa Gaudette.
I love
tons of people here. What do you love?
I love those guys.
Absolutely. I love these guys too. Guys and gals. Chase Brooks, 34. Mike Iverson. Of course, you got Swanky that was hanging out. I think I saw Aldo Gandia earlier.
Oh, the barkeeper.
And look, Mike Iverson is back. And he's got another question for us before we close things out, Tooch.
All right, Mike.
I have both Hunt and Chubb on one team with Montgomery, Miles, Sanders, and Robinson. Which one would you trade? Wow, that's really tough.
Sanders is kind of like a buy low right now. That Eagles offensive line is terrible. I mean, Montgomery is going to be a lot better with Cohen gone. Hunt to Chubb. I love James Robinson too. I'd probably trade Miles Sanders, but his stock is down right now. So maybe Nick Chubb his stock is up, but you don't want to give up on Chubb,
Well, see, I think you're selling high on Nick Chubb right now. I love Chubb. I think he's going to be great, but I think he's been playing so well. I think you got to leverage that. Mm-hmm. And out of all those guys, I'd be perfectly fine riding with Hunt, Montgomery, Sanders, and Robinson. I think that's well enough. That's good enough to win a championship. And I think Chubb's going to get you the most in return out of all those guys. Besides Robinson, which I'm not dealing right now because he's just too good. I think
here's the thing. You've got both Hunt and Chubb. I like your logic with Chubb, because you're going to get the most bang. But I think while I love Montgomery with his stock up, I might trade Montgomery or Sanders. And here's why. Montgomery is on a team that doesn't like to run the ball that much, So his stock is up right now with Cohen going out for the season. So before it gets too late, and find out that the Bears just don't want to run the ball, they're just going to call pass after pass after pass and pass, which is great if Montgomery's getting the passing. That's fine. But you might be able to get enough value of Montgomery. But if you're looking for a big bang, you got to go with Chubb if you're trying to get like a
Yeah, that's a big bang.
Yeah, and then hold on to Hunt because Hunt's giving you fantasy production too. And then if Chubb
Exactly.
still have Hunt. So yeah, I would either trade Chubb or Sanders. I think I would hold the rest.
I'm with you. That's a great lineup of running backs. Nice job drafting, Mike. And then we have another one here from Chase Brooks. He wants to know the Ronald Jones / Fournette outlook. That's a tough question because we were talking about earlier in the show about how Bruce Arians hates fantasy football. But for me, it's Leonard Fournette. I think he's going to take that step forward, and he's going to be the guy you want. I like him this week. Tooch does not like him as much. It was Tooch's sit. But I do think Fournette's the guy you want. Ronald Jones getting in the doghouse with some fumbleitis, as he often does. So I think Fournette's the guy you want.
And then last week they played Ronald Jones more, right? Didn't they?
Yeah, I know. It doesn't make any sense.
I don't like the outlook. I think that you're going to see, both guys. Maybe it's like a timeshare, But Fournette. Obviously the more talented back, I think, with the more experience, he's a better receiver, ends up with the longer runs. But then, sometimes you'll get Fournette, one long run and a bunch of 1 or 2 yard runs, and that's how he gets his 100 yards or, 80 yards or whatever. He has like a 60-yard run, and then he runs 10 times for, 15 yards. So,
yeah. So it's, yeah. So, I mean, It's not a great outlook right now, but I think Fournette takes it eventually. So just be patient. It's not going to be good for the next couple of weeks, probably. But
the Buccaneers team, it's not what I expected, Joe. Gronkowski got 0 action. It was a lot of OJ Howard, which was great, but and then last week Gronkowski got a lot of action too. Then Godwin goes down; he's been invisible. Evans has been hurt. They pick up Fournette, and Ronald Jones goes to the bench. And Brady not, playing, like Brady. It's been a weird season for the Buccaneers. What we thought we were getting was a big offensive production in the Arians offense.
Yeah, we're not. It's a slow start for that team, Tooch. And
I wonder if it's really going to open up though later in the season. You gotta, I don't know. Maybe it's one of those things where you really have to be patient with guys like Evans and Brady.
They're gonna get. They didn't have a lot of preseason to get going. I think it's going to take 5, 6, maybe 7 weeks for this team to get really chugging. But then I think they're really going to hit it on all cylinders. But be patient with your Buccaneers. Lisa says she has a question. She hasn't sent it yet, but Lisa, please send us your question. We'll answer it before we get out of here. Man, Tooch, the chat room very active tonight. I love it. So don't hesitate. Oh, here it comes. Here's your question from Lisa. But don't hesitate, guys, to send us your questions anytime, whether it's on the show live every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock Central or on Twitter all season long at FFBGoon, at Joe Mandel, at Santucci_John. We're going to get you your questions answered. And here's Lisa's question.
All right.
I want to trade for DA or D-Hop. My team is Lamar, Juju, Edelman, Kamara, Aaron Jones, Fant, and Robbie Anderson. Who should I trade?
So DA is Devontae Adams, right?
I would imagine that's, Devontae Adams or DeAndre Hopkins. They're both going to be about the same price.
But it's tough. I mean, you don't know the extent of Adams' injury, the hamstring injury I don't like. Hopkins has the better health. I'm with you. Yeah. I'd say you got to go Hopkins.
I
mean, Adams he could blow up at any time. Just you saw his first week at 17 targets, 14 catches, 156 yards. He put up like almost 50 fantasy points that first week, then got injured second week. If you're trading, you're not going to get DA or D-Hop for Lamar, but you might be able to package Lamar, and I hate to give up one of those running backs because Kamara and Aaron Jones. You're riding to the back, riding to the championship. So,
yeah, Lisa, my suggestion is those guys are probably a little too pricey for you to try. You'd have to give up a lot, and you have a great team Kamara right now.
Jones, I would hold on to Kamara, and I trade Aaron Jones, even though I love Aaron Jones. I just think that Kamara right now is just, man, he's lights out.
I think if you're going to trade for anybody right now, Lisa, you're going to trade for Tyler Lockett. That's a guy you got to target. He had a big game this week. We've been talking about him for weeks. And, it won't cost you as much as a DA or a D-Hop. I think you could probably trade Lamar straight up for Tyler Lockett. I'm okay with that right now. Tooch, do you think maybe Lockett and they can toss in like a running back 3 for Lamar? I think that's pretty fair.
That's a good call. I would try and target one of those Seahawks wide receivers if you could get one. I mean
DK or Tyler Lockett.
They're both going to be tough to get. I would try moving Lamar and getting a wide receiver, but I would hold on. I mean, you could ride Kamara and Aaron Jones all the way through the rest of the season.
Mm-hmm. And another good target. And Lisa now asks, is there any good cheaper wide receivers? And I think Keenan Allen's a good name there too. He's a guy that's going to be heavily targeted. He's going relatively cheap right now because he's got a rookie throwing him the ball. But Keenan Allen had a big game this week. He's back. He's risen. And you could probably give up Lamar for Allen and maybe get another running back in return.
I mean, she's got Robbie Anderson and Juju Smith-Schuster, who are 8 and 9 in the top. I mean, I would probably stay put. Try and get and did she say she has Justin Jefferson too?
I believe she said she had Jefferson earlier. I think I saw that. But
I mean, after one good week, he's at 21. I mean, I'd try and trade Lamar Jackson for Tyler Boyd, someone like that. Maybe Robert Woods.
Tyler Boyd, Keenan Allen, Robert Woods.
Yeah, Cooper Kupp. One of those guys.
And you could probably get somebody else too. You could probably do Lamar for one of those receivers and a running back 3. I mean, I would do that all day.
Yeah.
But I do think you wait another week to trade Lamar because his value is down. He has a big game, which you probably will this weekend. That's going to skyrocket. So hold off.
You might be able to get Lamar for Julio Jones, Joe.
You might be able to. I'm not high on Julio. I traded Julio away in all my leagues.
Mm-hmm.
That Falcons team has handed the baton over to Calvin Ridley. I've been saying it since the start of the season, Tooch. I think Ridley outperforms Julio in fantasy this year.
Mm-hmm.
And Julio already banged up, and it's not even week 3 yet. Or I'm sorry, not even week 4. I'm not loving Julio. I traded Julio for Michael Thomas. Injury for an injury, but for me, that's going to help me in the long term.
Yeah, I would try and hold tight where she's at. Maybe try and get one of those wide receivers, the secondary wide receivers for Lamar. Might be able to get Adam Thielen, but if she's already got Jefferson, maybe Terry McLaurin on the Redskins might be able to get him. But
Terry McLaurin, sneaky good, yeah.
With Juju and Robbie Anderson, she's got the number 8 and number 9 wide receivers. So I mean, it's not the news isn't terrible. I mean, her team could go all the way to the playoffs.
Her team's very good, and especially having Cam, and you can improve your team by trading Lamar. I like it.
Yep.
So that's a great question, Lisa. And again, we're here to help you guys all season long. Hit us up on Twitter at FFBGoon. You can hit me at Joe Mandel. Tooch, where can people find you on Twitter?
At Santucci_John.
Yeah, Santucci_John. Yep. And then every single week, guys, I put my rankings on fantasyfootballgoon.com, or you can also go to ffbgoon.com and go to the rankings tab. I put the rankings up early this week. They're already up for week 4. So if you have questions that you want answered immediately without reaching out to us, you can also go there and look at they're my rankings. They're not Tooch's rankings, but Tooch and I are usually pretty damn close on our thoughts. So you can check that out and hit us up on Twitter as well. And make sure you go over to fantasyfootballgoon.com, check out those rankings, and head over to bearsbarroom.com. Tooch, we just launched a new website. Really exciting stuff. The site's great. We have our own page for Fantasy Football Goon. And Tooch, we opened up the new swag shop, and you can buy a Fantasy Football Goon t-shirt and help support us.
All right. I love it. Got to get me one.
I'm going to actually open up in another tab. the swag shop so we can show people the T-shirts. So stall for me for a second, Tooch.
What do they come in multiple colors?
They do. They come in multiple colors.
Nice.
I'm pulling it up as we speak.
Yeah,
Of course, it's taking us.
Look pretty good on a bunch of different colors there. I mean, I got navy. Of course, it'd be difficult with the navy to show the true logo, but it might be good there.
The navy looks pretty good. I'm actually gonna share my screen now so I can show you guys
black
the swag shop. So I'm going to Chrome. We're gonna go to the Barroom Swag Shop.
Sure, would be
Here
good.
we go. Check it out. You got the Barroom Swag Shop. You can get your Bears Barroom hats. And then all the different shows. You got the Bears Barroom shirt, Buffon 55, our friends at Buffon 55, Barfly Tailgate, Bear Football, Bear Your Soul, Draft on Tap, Grobstein Schuster Zone, the Friendly Confines, Sharpshooters. And here we go. You got the Fantasy Football Goon shirt. We're loading it up. And you can get it in lots of different colors. I actually really like it on Navy Tooch. I'm waiting for it to load. There you go.
Good. What's that? Corn silk. That looked good.
So then if you go to corn silk. Yeah, I mean, you can get it on lots of different colors.
Is there a heather gray?
There is a heather gray, yes.
Oh.
That's what I got for my wife. That's very, very, very sexy. So make sure you guys head over to the Barroom Swag Shop, which is superiorembroidery.net/barroom swag. And then you can check it out. You can find this on our Twitter page on bearsbarroom.com. It'll take you directly there. And you can help support us and keep us chugging along, Tooch. And so if you guys want a T-shirt, you like the Fantasy Football Goon logo, you want to show people that you're part of the Goon Squad, feel free to help support us. We really appreciate you. And even if you don't,
I'll be ordering one soon.
There you go. And even if you don't order a shirt, we do appreciate you all tuning in, especially everyone I listed in the chat room. And then thank you all for the questions.
Yeah.
It's been a killer show. We went a lot longer than we usually do, but we got a lot of questions, and that's what we're here to help, right, Tooch?
That's right. We love it. Love those questions.
Oh, Lisa goes, that's a lot of colors. Yes, that is. And, you can get it on whatever color shirt you want, but we like heather gray. We like the navy. You can get it on lime green if you want, but either way, however you want it, we're here to, we appreciate you supporting us and even if you don't buy a shirt, we just appreciate you guys all tuning in and sticking around the entire night with us. It's been a long show. It's been a fun show. Huge thank you to you. Oh, I did it wrong again. You, Tooch. Appreciate you, brother. Hanging with me every single Tuesday night. And talking fantasy. It's always fun.
Oh, I love it. Yep. Love talking fantasy with the Barflies.
And Lisa says, have a good day. Well, night. We do appreciate you, Lisa, and everyone else that tuned in and all the Barflies. And Tooch, you and I always thank the barkeeper, Mr. Aldo Gandia.
That's right.
Aldo, we appreciate you letting us do this every week. We're having a ton of fun talking fantasy and helping the people out there. It's what we're here to do. And Tooch, we're going to see what happens with COVID. It's been a wild and wacky week, and it's only going to get crazier. So keep your eyes peeled to the Fantasy Football Goon Twitter at FFBGoon. Check out the website. It's in the bottom left of our screen, or bottom right of our screen right now, fantasyfootballgoon.com.
Yep, get the rankings there.
And then make sure you head over to bearsbarroom.com. Check out all the great stuff, all the great shows. As you saw in the promo before the show, Draft on Tap Thursday night. Going to be a great show. Tune into that. And then the Barroom's just got great content all around. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you can find podcasts. And for all you that listened all the way through, please give us a like on this podcast. Like the podcast, like the video, and please subscribe if you can. We really appreciate it. And Tooch, any last minute shout outs before we get out of here, my brother?
Just again, Aldo, for letting us do this every week, and all the Barroom personalities. Really enjoying all the work that they're putting in, and all the Barflies that make it all possible. And my partner, Joe Mandel.
I appreciate it, brother. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our brothers in arms over at the Barfly Tailgate Show.
Yes.
We appreciate you guys. Huge shout out to all you guys, especially for having us on every week to talk fantasy. For those of you who don't know, we're on every Sunday right around 9:30 Central, 10:30 East, talking fantasy plays, starts and sits, injuries, and the whole shenanigans. So make sure you guys tune into that show every single Sunday morning around 8 a.m. Central. I believe they get started, and they're always talking Bears pregame. It's great stuff. How about it, Tooch?
Love it. Last minute updates for fantasy. Last minute fantasy news, last minute picks, daily fantasy, all of it. All you find out Barfly Tailgate Show every Sunday morning.
And lastly, if you guys stuck around this long, also the Barfly Tailgate and Bears Barroom is teamed up with Manscaped. Definitely they're a must start in your most important fantasy player. Let your boys see the playing field. That's right, at Manscaped. And you can get 20% off if you use the promo code BARROOM20. That's BARROOM 20. And you can get 20% off anything at manscaped.com. Help us out. Use that promo code. And you can get some good grooming tools. You don't have to use it for your nether regions. You can use it on your face. You can use it wherever you want, Tooch.
That's a really smooth offer, Joe.
I see what you did there. I see what you did there, Tooch. But you know, we got our little plugs in there. We thanked everybody. We thanked Aldo, and we talked a hell of a whole lot of fantasy tonight. We're at the hour 45-minute mark. We appreciate you all. It's been a long, fun show. And with that, we're finally going to get out of here. And for those of you that hung around and didn't watch the presidential debate, we appreciate you hanging out with us. And nonetheless, we know that America needs fantasy football more now than ever. It's been great hanging out with you guys tonight. Tooch and the Goon signing off. We'll catch you guys next time. And may the force be with you.